Hello, welcome back to my channel. I wanted to do a video about toxic productivity, and at the end I'm going to talk about parasympathetic nervous system. I'll get into all of it. So yeah, this is an interesting one about toxic productivity, or what is seen as toxic productivity, and I feel like my generation is more known for this. I mean, it's always been around, hasn't it? Toxic productivity. If you don't know what I mean by that, it's basically where people in companies and to yourself will crack down on basically creating the best outcome in the shortest amount of time, basically being hyper efficient. But really, you've got to look at what comes with that and then the health implications that is creating, because we've all gravitated a lot towards the internet and robotic things, smartphones, all this stuff, but we're not robots at the end of the day. I think sometimes we struggle to remember that I am not a face on a screen. You know what I mean? Celebrities aren't faces on screens. I'm a human being with human emotions, human problems, human ability to cope with things, just like everyone else is. And unfortunately, we've all seemed to have idealized this platform of YouTube and people that are celebrities so much that we've convinced ourselves that we are indeed also robots, which kind of sucks. And we're not. We have human brains and we have human emotions, and robots will basically be able to, do things really quickly because they're a machine, but we are not machines. And I think we struggle to realize that. So people have faults and flaws and they make mistakes, and, that means that more time is taken. But unfortunately, that comes with our nature. And we can't be expected to act like machines because it wouldn't work. And this is why we keep falling into this horrible toxic mindset of, why aren't we working like a robot? Well, because we're not. Do you know what I mean? So someone I saw on the internet likened this to an analogy of a athlete trying to sprint a long distance race. So of course, like, that's not going to be possible because he'll probably get injured, or he will run out of resources. He won't be able to sprint a long distance race like a marathon. You can't sprint a marathon because you just can't. You run out of physical energy. And the same goes for, the amount of effort some people are expected to put in with toxic productivity situations. Constantly, we live in a culture where our minds and our bodies are letting us know consistently that we're going too much, too hard, too fast, but we ignore our bodies because of society and the way that we are all programmed recently to act and be. And I'm not saying that everything is toxic productivity. Having no inclination to do anything is honestly an outcome of being worked too hard to an extent for some people. It's just hard because as much as being efficient is helpful, and I'm not saying that I don't see the benefit in having efficiency and managers not allowing people to, I was going to say have a DOS culture, but at the same time, isn't being social with each other part of our nature? Should we not try and reintroduce that back into society, into being an acceptable, good thing that people in jobs should be able to want to work and speak to each other and have, um, breaks and things? Because it just seems like everyone just wants to go harder, faster, more, and it's just greedy in the idea of what we're all supposed to be able to produce when we all have a limit. Do you know what I mean? And we're consistently pushing ourselves, which is why we're such an ill culture, in my opinion. So she also spoke on this idea of having it all is not doing it all. So people think if you have the perfect job, if you have the perfect husband, if you have the perfect children, if you have the perfect house, if you have the perfect area that you live in, if you have a perfect relationship with your family, if you have a perfect relationship with your friends, if you have a perfect relationship with yourself, you know, you're spiritually inclined and you're physically well and everything, you will, you know, where are you? As much as those things are good, people forget to moderate ourselves and accept our personal limitations to an extent. You know what I mean? As much as, you know, the world's changing and people are changing with it, I'm not saying that they shouldn't. But sometimes I'm just putting the emphasis on toxic productivity in the way it's of machinery. So it's just so easy to fall into, though. But I suppose it's just about finding your personal groove and working with that, basically. So yeah, I just wanted to quickly touch on, like, for example, you know, when your boss comes round in a job, I've had this where they look over you and you just pretend you're busy. Do you know what I mean? And I understand that because they don't want to, as I said, to create a culture where people are sort of, you know, taking the mick a bit, in that they could obviously work for their money. But I'm just obviously saying people are also human beings and they're not. Sometimes they do make mistakes and they do talk and things, and that should be allowed, because we can't just, it can't be all output and no input. This is the issue. I feel like as human beings, as energy sources, we need to output the same as what we input, happiness wise and relaxation. If we're all output productivity, fast, we're not taking anything in, we're not taking a break, we're not talking to each other and regenerating and rejuvenating, we're not going to get very far. We're going to burn out. And also, it just being aware of your body and mind's signs that you're working too hard, or you need a break, or, you know, just your own sense of what your body is telling you, basically. Just being in touch with whether, you know, you need to take, you know, a break or have a cup of tea, or, you know, do whatever is relevant for your life. It's always personal, but being aware of your own mental health signs. Is your mood changed? As much as you can manage these things and work through these things, which I'm going to talk about in a sec. It is also important to just keep tabs, because it's just so easy for people to fall down the loophole of, I need to be better, I need to do better, I need to do better at work, I need to do better with my family, I need to do it. Have you ever heard of that phrase? Once one thing goes well in one area of your life, something else goes bad in another area. And for example, if you do well at work, your kids might start giving you grief or whatever. And I feel that that's a rule of thumb, that people have forgotten this wholesome mindset that people need to have in order to be healthy. Because you, like, honestly, you can't look at life like in a robotic way. We're not robots. We're human beings. You know, as much as we want to act like a robot, in some jobs it might be helpful for people to be robots, but they're not. If you want robots in your job, hire robots. We are not not people in your job are also human beings which have a duty of care, to not be worked into the ground. So it's obviously not the case for all jobs. I'm just making a point here. But yeah, so it's best not to. And also, I do think another point, just touching on social media again, is that when people see the outcome, we often see the outcome of productivity. So we see Facebook posts, Instagram posts, YouTube videos, products posted online. And unfortunately, people think this is a idea, and then you create the idea and then you put it out into the world, and you just think, it just happens overnight. But no, a lot of the products that are put into the world take time to develop, years to develop, years to test, years to market, years to, put it out eventually. There's years of planning and processing and testing behind all of that. Just like one day you don't wake up and suddenly you're really low confidence person. One day you just wake up, I got so much confidence. No, it takes a process. Everything is a process. And unfortunately, we've forgotten, on a work perspective, due to greed and management trying to crack down on people to create more money, probably, we've forgotten that work is also the same. We're working human beings, but we can't be worked into the ground for more money when at the detriment of our health. More and more people are being open about this, but it really needs to be spoken about more, which is why I'm doing this video. So yeah, finally, I want to talk about something called the parasympathetic nervous system. And I was going to put this in a separate video, but I think I'm just going to talk about it now because it kind of very, very closely relates. And regardless of toxic productivity, people can be dealing with past trauma. A lot of people, most people, deal with past trauma, past issues, depression, mental health problems. And toxic productivity can make these things worse, and they can bring out bad symptoms in your mental health that you wouldn't want to look at usually, even if that's anger or behavioural problems, emotional outbursts, anger outbursts, even from a manager. If you never had a manager be angry at you for reasons that you didn't need to be disciplined for, it wasn't a positive experience, it wasn't a necessary experience, but they were angry and stressed out, so then you got the brunt of it. And unfortunately, these things are just accepted in our society at the moment because, the manager is angry. I'm not saying a manager doesn't have stress, and that shouldn't be taken into consideration, but this toxic productivity culture we've accumulated has created that more. So your parasympathetic nervous system is basically a process in your brain. Your brain structurally can change. It's been proven through science that your brain can structurally change in the way you use it. So your parasympathetic nervous system is something, and your sympathetic nervous system is something. So your sympathetic nervous system is a response. They're both responses, how you respond to an event. So your sympathetic nervous system is like your fight, flight, freeze response. So if you basically feel like you're in danger, this is your sympathetic nervous system. If you feel like you're in danger, you go into the fight, flight, freeze response. And it's something like so yeah, if you're in danger, but sometimes people feel like they're in danger when they're not in danger. People can, unfortunately, especially if they have PTSD, or they're living through, or they're thinking about their trauma, or even if it's subconsciously you can think about past problems you've had in your life, be that trauma or bad relationships or anything, and you can put yourself automatically into the sympathetic nervous system response, which basically means that your body is ready to go. It's on alert. And unfortunately, people stay in this for a long period of time, and then you're exhausted by the end of it, because our bodies are supposed to go through a period of flight response for small things, but then they're supposed to come down again and go back into the sympathetic nervous system. So this is basically the opposite. This is like the resting response to life, resting and restoring. Your digestion goes back to normal, your heart rate goes back to normal, you just relax your body and your brain, and everything's rejuvenating and healing and stuff like that. So yeah, these are the two states to be in, basically. And the fact is, your brain will change due to how you use it. So if you have more strength in your parasympathetic nervous system, and you have more connections to create more strength in the parasympathetic nervous system, you can create a more grounded sense of self more quickly, potentially. If you're a very anxious person, you might have more grounding in the sympathetic nervous system. But the idea is to grow strength and use your parasympathetic nervous system more. So here are some ideas for that and ways you can do that. So You can, the first one, which I find I've been doing a lot, which I only found out this video yesterday, but I knew about the parasympathetic nervous system for over a year or 2 years in this context. You can first, deep breathing is always good. So breathing in for 5 seconds, like, and out. And doing that multiple times will put you in a rest and rejuvenate situation automatically in your head. The one I was going to talk about was bearing down. So this sounds really funny when you say it like this, but it's supposed to be your pelvic floor. You're supposed to be, being in touch with. So basically, you kind of like, say if you're on the toilet, so you just sort of like bear down as if you're like trying to go number 2, and you just like hold that, and then you let go, and that is supposed to like reintegrate your parasympathetic nervous system. It's also about like getting chest tension. So when you bear down, you'll notice you have a bit of chest tension, and then it's just about letting it go and like breathing in between. Also, if you yawn, I'm not going to do that now, but you know what a yawn is. That could also, I literally just did that when I said I wasn't going to yawn. Okay, there we go. So that is also engaging your parasympathetic nervous system. Also, peripheral vision. So basically, that is when you look straight forward, but you also notice the other things around your vision that you can see. So you can see straight forward. Because have you ever heard of this thing called tunnel vision? Which is when you are in a panic response and you can only see what's in front of you, and that's what we tune into. But if you look at your peripheral vision, this is when you see like all of everything else going on around you, and that puts you in a parasympathetic nervous system. And yeah, the one other thing I will talk about, which is not the parasympathetic nervous system, but it's called somatic experiencing, which is kind of very related, because the whole thing about the parasympathetic nervous system, try saying that about 40 times and see how you get on. I'm sorry I keep tripping over it, but it is quite a hard word to say. Is this thing called somatic experiencing, which is like basically the idea that your body holds on to emotion in your body and like stores it up in trauma and things like that. So obviously, have you ever seen like a bear shaking when they basically, if a bear has like an encounter with another animal or something where they have to fight maybe another bear, and then they walk away, they shake. Have you ever seen a dog like shake when he's like been fighting with another dog or whatever? They just like shake off, you know what I mean? Like just I felt quite good when I did that. And this is because this is how the body releases all the tension and the emotions in your muscles and like just lets them go basically. So yeah, this is an animal response to releasing this, but we can also do this as humans. We are still mammals at the end of the day. We basically can do this by so if you stand up, and you can do it by shaking anyway, or shaking anything. Even if you shook your hands for ages, you'd eventually like stimulate things in your body. But I don't think that was one of the things that you're supposed to do. Basically, standing up and just like hopping your feet, like just like basically just going really fast on your feet, like one foot after another. But you got to be stood up. And just do this for like 45 seconds, and it just lets out so much stress and tension from your body. Like, it's actually crazy. So yeah, so letting out muscle tension and things like that out of your body just can really, 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 really relieve stress, because all of the stuff I've just spoken about is from an ancient part of your brain, a less developed part of your brain, because we have a part of our brain that's very primal and more goes further back in evolution and stuff like that. That basically is to do with the fight, flight, freeze response. And we also have a more like analytic part where we can contemplate things. But unfortunately, because we've evolved, but it's not unfortunately, but just the point is we want to be trying to realize that we're in a safe space, even if we feel like we're not. So sometimes if you're socially anxious, for example, being around loads of people might give you lots of anxious thoughts. are people looking at me, whatever. I'm not trying to feed into this now, but what I'm saying, if you're anxious around social situations, it's reminding yourself you're safe, you're physically safe, you're not going to be attacked by a bear, you're within your own body, we are humans. Yes, there's a very small chance you could be knifed by an axe murderer, but it's a very, very small chance. But just bringing yourself back to your body and saying, I'm not in a, life or death situation here, I can relax. And that, hopefully, just reminding yourself you're safe and thinking of things that make you feel safe can help as well. But yeah, I don't want to make it too long, but yeah, I hope this helped. There's lots of information out there on parasympathetic nervous system and somatic experiencing, so have a look if you fancy. But yeah, I wanted to make a video about this too. So yeah, hope you enjoy my video and see you again.